Hi and welcome back to my channel. So today's video will be a monthly wrap-up. So a wrap-up of all the books I read in January. At the beginning of this year I made a resolution to read at least 20 books in 2022. So far I've read 5, so I'm very excited to be off to such a great start. Now I sort of feel like I could have made a resolution to read more than just 20 books, but since this is my first year of more serious reading, I wanted to sort of ease myself into it and not put too much pressure on myself, because I think that the most important thing is to enjoy reading and not exactly how much you read. So let's get into the books I read this month. The first book I read was Casino Royale by Ian Fleming, and this is the first James Bond book. It's quite a short book and it's very fast-paced, so even though it's not a great book, I still enjoy reading it and I never really had a chance to get bored. In general, I would not recommend this book, but if you're someone like me who's interested or curious about the James Bond books, then I would recommend reading it. I did make a longer review of this book, so I will put a link to that video for those who are interested in knowing more. Next up is What I Talk About When I Talk About Running by Haruki Murakami. And this author is mainly known for his magical realism fiction. However, this is a memoir about long-distance running and writing. This is the first book that I read by him and I absolutely loved it. I read it over 2 days and it was such an easy and enjoyable read. I'm really interested in running, so I think that added to my enjoyment of the book. I do have a separate longer review of this book coming soon, so if that's something you're interested in, keep an eye out for that video. But in short, he wrote this book while he was preparing for the New York City Marathon in 2005. And as he's preparing for this race, he's reminiscing about past races, the time when he first started running, and how his running has impacted his writing. I don't think this book is for everyone. If you're not interested in running, I would not recommend reading this book. I've heard other people who in general like Murakami's writing, but they said that they did not enjoy this book because they're not interested in running. So if you are interested in running, then I would definitely recommend this one. So the third book I read is Sizzling 16 by Janet Evanovich, and this is book 16 in the Stephanie Plum series, which is sort of a chick lit / comedy / crime series. So Stephanie works as a bounty hunter in Trenton, New Jersey, but she's not very good at her job, so she has to rely mainly on luck and other people just to get through the day. And there is a supporting cast of characters that show up in every book. They are family members, colleagues, and other people who live in the neighborhood. And they're all pretty flamboyant and colorful and really adds to the comedy in the books. Stephanie's love life is also pretty chaotic. She's in an on and off relationship with a cop, Joe, who she went to high school with. And then there's Ranger, who's sort of dark and mysterious, and he has a security company and he helps Stephanie out with the bounty hunting when the going gets tough, and it's sort of a flirtatious vibe between them. So like I said before, this is book 16 in this series, and I think you can sort of tell. I think that the imagination of the author is sort of starting to dry up. There's no real character development for the main character. She's still doing the same things as she was in the first book, and she's still pretty much exactly the same person as well. I mean, I think it's good that the characters are consistent when it comes to personality, but I think that some progression would have been nice. That being said, I will still continue to read these books. I think there are 28 now. And I don't think that there will be any major character development going forward, but these books are sort of like comfort food or a TV show that you watch over and over again for comfort. So when I need something funny or lighthearted, I do gravitate towards these books, and I think that will continue. Next up is The Club Dumas by Arturo Pérez Reverte, and this book is sort of described as a mystery/crime novel, but I would say that the emphasis in the book is on mystery. Sure, crimes do feature, but the main focus of the book is around mysteries surrounding all the books and authors. The main character is Lucas Corso, and he's a Spanish book dealer who is known for always getting the job done, even if he has to stray slightly outside the law. He's in Madrid and he's asked to investigate if a rare and partial manuscript of the Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas is real and authentic, or if it's a forgery. And while he's in Madrid, he is contacted by a wealthy collector who wants him to investigate another book, this time a book from the 1600s, which contains instructions how to summon the devil. And the author of this book was burned at the stakes, and the legend is that only one copy of this book survived. However, there are now 3 copies circulating, so Corso's job is to find out which copy is the authentic one. So in order to solve these 2 mysteries, he goes on an adventure and travels to Toledo in Spain, to Porto in Portugal, to Paris and other places in France. And while on his travels, he meets a lot of shady people, some who are helping him and some who are not. There's also a lot of referencing to old and obscure medieval literature. Overall, I enjoyed this book, especially the first half. I'm someone who really likes mystery novels, so I'm not too hard to please when it comes to this genre. However, as I think is often the case with mysteries, the ending was somewhat disappointing. The mystery is being built up throughout the novel, and I often find that the authors have a hard time coming up with a solution or conclusion that matches the hype that's been building up throughout the book, and I think that was the case with this book as well. So there are some pretty interesting characters in this book, but I found the main character to be pretty flat and boring. So when I finished the book, I was pretty happy to let go of the main character. All in all, I would say that this book is for someone who's looking for in mystery, someone who's interested in history and literature, and someone who's looking for something plot-driven. It's a pretty fast-paced book, so it doesn't really get boring. The latest book I finished is In Search of Lost Time, Volume 1, by French author Marcel Proust. And I will make a separate review of this book, so I will try to keep it short here. This is the first book in a series of 7 that were first published in the 1910s and 1920s. They are considered modern classics, and they explore the loss of time and the lack of meaning in the world. I was surprised how much I enjoyed reading it. Even though it's a classic, I was cautious going into it. It is, after all, over 100 years old, and the writing style of that time is not really what we are used to nowadays. The sentences are really long, so you really have to concentrate while reading, otherwise you won't remember what you just read. In the first part of the book, the narrator is reminiscing about the time he spent as a child in his family's country home and the people he met there. His memories are triggered when he eats a Madeleine cake dipped in tea, and he remembers eating the same thing as a child with his aunt, and this triggers more memories to appear. This passage is perhaps what Proust is most known for. This is what is known as having a Madeleine moment. I don't know how widespread that expression is nowadays, but in Sweden we still use it when a memory is triggered by something very specific. I very much enjoyed reading this book despite the slow pace. The focus of this book is not the plot, but the characters and their thoughts and feelings. Proust is very good at making his characters interesting, and through them he explores deep topics such as memory, time, art, death and love. There are 6 more volumes in this series and I've decided to read all of them. I will take my time because I think that's the best way to have a good reading experience of these books, and I've also decided to read at least 1 volume in French. I think that will be a great challenge. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.